Welcome to the Solemn Vanguard channel. Today we are going to rank the different Zeroth dragons in terms of usefulness and power. But first, a message from our sponsor. Sponsored by Royalty Playmat Designs, the perfect way to get a custom playmat made to your specifications, characters, logos, symbols, text, play zones, or the name of your bunny. Anything is possible. They also have some really cool pre-made playmats in their store. Links will be in the description. Now, before I begin, I put quite some ZRs in the same spots because some of this is quite meta and matchup dependent. There aren't always very clear lines. Getting right into the video though, the king of Zeroth dragons is undeniably Dust. Now, as we all know or don't know, the first version of Dust we saw was where he dealt a damage regardless of how much damage your opponent had, so you could go from 5 to 6, and on top of that, turned off all your opponent's rearguards abilities and pushed them to power 1 and pushed them to grade 1, which meant your opponent could no longer G-guard or guard with grade 2 or 3. I'm not gonna lie, if Dust had been released in this state, I would have quit the game. It would have been a clear signal to the player base that A, they'd rather sell a bunch of boxes than caring about their competitive scene, and B, their new mechanic of the new season would fuck every form of stride in the Rs in order to balance this card back. B is still a strong possibility, but hey. Now he got an errata because the community started rioting and he can only deal damage up to 5. Regardless, Dust is still the strongest ZR in the game by far. You don't just combine Overlord to Purge and a superior version of the whole delete mechanic at a lower cost in decks where multi-attacks are insanely easy to do. Pre-errata Dust would have turned competitive Vanguard into play Dust or bust, or with other words, play Dark Zone or lose. But this version of Dust isn't that much different. If you combine Periton with Betty and Purple Trapezist, Pale Moon can easily do as many attacks as Aquaforce can, against a pseudo-deleted Vanguard. If you do the TikTok history maker Melon bullshit plays, Time Leap can easily do as many attacks as Aquaforce can as well, against a pseudo-deleted Vanguard. Don't even fucking mention Spike Brothers Mecha Trainer, which can retire your Guardians, or Dark Irregular's Enigmatic Assassins creating multiple 25k power swings against a pseudo-deleted Vanguard. Remember that deleters right now are winning hard because they're playing stand triggers. Can you imagine throwing some of the best multi-attack engines in the game into deleter decks? That's what Dust does. Dust is a broken, stupid card regardless of the errata and will define the meta the second this released. Therefore, Dust is at number 1. Second place goes to Stark and Ultima. First Stark, people seem to undervalue what 3 big Vanguard attacks with a drive check can do. Remember that Dimension Police can easily push this thing to 100k power. You'll need 3 perfect guards or hope for some 6 damage miracle heals, because I see a future where people play 16 crit D Police that's 100% focused on rushing to Stark and winning. Remember that Chaos can definitely use some offensive push, and boy did they get it. Stark definitely isn't the scariest CR, Dust is still way beyond him and Ultima probably is as well, but do keep in mind that Stark doesn't care about lacking rearguards, and given that Credora and Chaos are still a thing, at least Dust can be countered somewhat by some decks maybe sometimes. Now, the problem I have with Dust and Stark is that the other Zeroths so far held quite some risk. They weren't a definite game ender, and so you usually didn't want to risk going into them. These two are way more definite game enders. Dust gives 0 fucks. Any noob can stride this card and have a win rate of 80%. There is no thought that goes into using the card. The risk isn't there. Who cares about losing your G-Zone if you're so fucking damn sure you're gonna win anyway? It won't make the game more competitive, that's for sure. Now there's Ultima. At first I was pretty underwhelmed by this card, to be honest. You can't just plop it into any deck and get sick value from it. Angel Feather will definitely see value, but a few other United Sanctuary decks can't fully capitalize on this card. Regardless, when building your deck slightly differently to ensure you can abuse some of the extra power in the stance, this beast can create quite a deadly turn. He can give massive amounts of power, and when you have a full field, those power plays could be what you need to finish this game. Spot 3 is shared between Zoa, Megiddo and Drachma. Reason for Zoa, it forces your opponent to hold on to perfect guards against decks that can reach insane numbers. Asha easily goes to 90k consistently, Big Belly easily goes to 41k relatively consistently, Credora easily goes to 41 or even 51k consistently with Overwhelm and the stupid grade 3. So your opponent generally has to hold on to a perfect guard during that onslaught just so he or she won't die to Zoa. That's what makes Zoa good, the threat. And if you see your opponent overextending with PGs, you can simply Zoa and win. Zoa would have been garbage in other nations, but in the Zune nation it's pretty solid. Regardless, all it takes is one perfect guard to stop this bad boy, so I wouldn't put it higher. Megiddo is in this spot because it has an extra function beyond finishing power, but doesn't hold all that much actual finishing power. When Aquaforce or Bermuda Triangle don't have access to pieces anymore due to onslaught from tier 1 decks, they generally die. That's their primary weakness, an over-reliance on pieces. Sure, Tavos is solid now, but lack of pieces can still be a thing, especially in the cookie cutter aggro build. Megiddo is basically an oh shit button. If your opponent pushes you hard enough, all it takes is one correct grade 3 to still come back with a miracle push. That's something the other Zeroths don't have built into them. As for Grand Blue, Megiddo is basically an earlier GB8 pirate ship, and that has value as well. If you look at Nitro's build stopping, they always run Megiddo, even though room is so limited now that you gotta run 4 of the new Nitros. And since Grand Blue can easily reset all their counterblast every turn, Megiddo is very easy to go into this deck. But that doesn't change the fact that a few 16k swings aren't very special. Now, Dagma is in here because he doesn't have that much game-ending power either. All it takes is a grade 3 and some solid hand size to stop this card from mattering. And considering every fucking relevant deck right now has gigantic hands, he just doesn't put in that much work. Remember this, if we get to a format where every deck is beat down aggro and only has 5 card hands, this card could be really sweet, but that's not the reality of the game right now. Decks have 12 card hands, end of story. Look at Chaos, look at Overlord, look at Gradora, look at the draw version of Tavos. His main win condition is the cheese downgrade win, when your opponent doesn't have a grade 3 in hand, but that's it. If your opponent has only 5 cards in hand, you are probably gonna win on Ziegenberg or Purge as well. This is a win more card, and whilst you'll surely see some fun finishes from him in a video here and there, he's simply not as good as Dust, Stark or Ultima. So that was my ranking for all the Zeroth dragons. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Solemn Vanguard channel and click the bell button to stay up to date. Also, let me know in the comments, how would you rank these dragons and why? Ciao!